In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint this juicy watermelon slice in digital watercolor on your iPad. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial and I'll take you through every single step. If you're interested, please keep on watching. Hello and welcome to Color with Kendi. So today we're painting this watermelon slice. For this, you will need a few materials. I am using an iPad and I'm using the app Procreate today. And I have an Apple Pencil and I'm using the Messy Watercolor brush set, which I will link in the description and pinned comment. And I'm also using the canvas that comes with that set. And there's also a free traceable for you with a color palette, which you can download in the description and the pinned comment. So those are all the supplies. Let's get into it. Okay, the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the Procreate canvas that I intend to paint in, which is the Messy Watercolor 8 by 10 inch canvas. It has a nice paper texture that will go really well with our illustration. Then I'm going to import the traceable, and to do that just go to the wrench icon. This is your actions menu. Tap on add and insert a photo. And then you can insert the photo, which is right here, and it will import it into Procreate for you. And then you can resize it. I'm going to make sure I don't crop off the color palette because I want to keep that color palette. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to put this color palette in a different layer. It's just a lot easier to have it in a different layer. So I'm going to go to my selection tool and tap on freehand. And this is going to allow me to lasso around this. And then with 3 fingers, I'm going to swipe down and cut and paste. What will happen is this will now be cut and paste into its own layer. Now the next step is to reduce the opacity of the traceable. We want to be able to see it, but we don't want the black liner to get in our way. So you can go to the layers panel and then go to the layer where we have our line art, the traceable, tap on N and then reduce the opacity. Whatever you want. I am comfortable with around 20%. Doesn't need to be exact. It's enough for me to see it so I can reference it, but I don't want the line art to get in the way. So now that I have the color palette in a different layer, what I want to do is I actually want to move it all the way to the top, just so that it's out of the way. I'm going to be painting in this area here, between the paper overlay and the paper background, and I just want the color palette out of the way, so I'm going to tap and hold and move it all the way to the top. So now it's all the way up at the top, and then when I'm done the painting, I can just tap that and it's out of the way. All right, so I'm going to go to the paint here layer. So that's the layer where we have the illustration, but I actually don't want to paint there. I am actually going to paint in another layer. The reason for this is I am going to remove this traceable once we're done painting. So I just want to be able to see it, but I don't want to actually paint in it. So I've created another layer. Okay, so what we're going to do, this is our game plan. We are going to color in this portion, this triangle of the watermelon with this beautiful pink color. And then we're going to color in the rind with that color right here. And then we're going to add in fun effects with the bolder, brighter colors. Okay, so let's go to the brush library, tap on the Messy Watercolor set, the main set. And I am going to do the base colors, the base shapes in the basic watercolor. This is a nice pigmented brush and it's really great to lay down your basic shapes and then you can add on fun effects. So I've selected the brush and I'm going to select the middle size, which is 25. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and tap and hold that, and that will select the pink color. So I'm going to color in this portion with that pink. Now let's just test out the brush. I think it's a bit too small, so it's always a good idea to test your brush, see if it's big enough or small, and then you can always change the size. I'm gonna go up a little bit. Let's see, about 50%. I feel a lot more comfortable at this size. I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to fill in the shape. While I fill in the shape, something to keep in mind is don't lift your pencil and then continue coloring because you will get that overlap. With a lot of watercolor brushes, you will see transparency, and with transparency, you see overlap. So if you don't want that, you can either smudge it out or you can just color in your base shape without lifting your pencil. So I'm going to fill in the shape, and we're not trying to be perfect, but try not to lift the pencil because then you will have to deal with smudging, which is not something I want to do at this point. And just once you've done the outline, start to fill it in inside. You can adjust the shape as you go along too. And just keep your pencil on the screen. And I'm happy with that. Is it perfect? No. Parts of it are a little bit outside the line, but we're not trying to do this perfectly. So that is the base shape for the slice. And now we're going to do the rind, but in a different layer. I like to work in different layers. That way, if I ever need to change something, it's a lot easier. Now I'm going to go in and select this color. And same process, I'm going to create the base shape here. Now that I'm putting the color down, I feel like it might be a little bit too bright for me. Just a notch. So if the colors don't speak to you, you can always change them. You can go into the color menu. I always use disc mode, and you can just shift it. So I want to make this a little bit lighter, so I'm going to shift it in this direction. And I am much happier with that. It's a much lighter color. And what I'm going to do is same process. I'm going to fill in the shape. I'm trying to leave a small gap between the pink and the yellow. Okay, so our base shape is done. Now our next step is to start creating fun effects on these base shapes. So let's start with the rind first. So whenever I create effects, I always like to do it in a different layer. That way, if I don't like the effect and I want to change it, I can just delete the layer. If I do everything in the same layer, it's much harder to go back. So create another layer in the layers panel. And then we are going to tap on this and make this a clipping mask. Now you might be thinking, what's a clipping mask? Basically, by using a clipping mask, anything I put in this layer will only show up on the shape underneath. So essentially, nothing is going to go outside the shape. So I don't have to worry about things being messy and going everywhere. It will stay contained in that shape. So what I want to do now is grab this color here, this darker green, and then I'm going to select, let's see, the dual color pigment bleed overlay brush. So tap on that, and this is a dual color brush. Anytime you have a dual color brush, make sure you go to the color menu and make sure that there are two colors that you actually want to use. Because if I started to use this brush right now, I would have had green and red, and that wouldn't have looked very good. So in order to change the second color, just tap on it, and then you can change it to any color that you like. So I'm gonna go in with a different shade of green. They're quite similar, just a little bit different. And then I'm gonna tap on this one because I want that one to be my main color. And now what I'm going to do, because we are in a clipping mask layer, I can do whatever I want here and it won't go outside. So I am moving my pencil everywhere, but do you see that green is only showing up on the shape we had underneath? It's not showing up on the pink, it's not showing up everywhere. So that's the benefit of a clipping mask, laying down a shape and adding the effects on top. So I want this green to be mainly at the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap a little bit outside the edge and I'm going to move the pencil upwards like it's bleeding in. And you can add as much or as little pigment and you can go crazy, you can keep tapping. I think that looks good, I'm happy with it, but I do want to add some more fun effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add more effects in a different layer. So I'm going to go to the layers panel, tap on plus, and making a clipping mask. It may seem a little daunting to keep adding layers, but once you get used to adding layers, it's really, really flexible because if you want to delete something and remove it, it's a single swipe, so much easier. So what I'm going to do, I want to add some fun effects from, let's see, the Messy Extra set. There are so many brushes and it's so much fun to try different things. So I'm going to go in with the Stamp and Slide C, and I'm going to do a little tap here and see what that looks like. Do you see? That's the effect it created. If I do a larger tap, it will look like that. So just tap on the sides until you get the effect that you like. There. I think that looks good. I'm happy with that. And now I am ready to add some effects to the main slice. So let's go to the layers panel and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We have our base shape and we have some clipping masks. So I'm going to go and tap on this layer here where we have our base shape for the watermelon slice, and then create a clipping mask right on top of it, and then tap on clipping mask. And now I'm going to add some fun effects in these two colors. So first, let's select the brush. There are a lot of brushes you can use any brushes from the set that you like, but I'm going to go in and select the dual color hard edge overlay B brush. This is in the Messy main set. I'm going to tap on that, and whenever you see dual color, select your two colors. So I'm going to go to the color menu. This is the first color. I'm going to tap on this, and this will be my second color. They're quite close to each other, but a little bit different. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this brush works. So I am in a clipping mask layer, and I'm at size 100. And this brush with light pressure, you see very little pigment. And then as you add heavy pressure, you'll see more of the hard edges. But what's interesting is if you keep the pencil on the screen and you keep moving it, so I'm on the screen and I keep moving it, you can essentially erase away some of those hard edges if you want to. So you can create interesting effects just by varying the pressure. So because this is a pressure sensitive brush, I do suggest that you really use varied pressure to get the best results. So I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to use very light pressure initially. Very light. And now I'm going to start to add in some heavy pressure and then lighten it a little bit. And see what you like. You can create interesting effects, but just see what is working for you, what you feel like doing. So that's the effect that I have there, and I want to smudge this out just a touch. I'm going to go to the smudger, and I'm going to select smudger A from the Messy Watercolor set. I'm on the mid-size, and I'm just going to smudge this just a notch. And now I want to add some more fun effects to this. So I'm going to do this in another clipping mask. So another layer, tap on clipping mask. And you can do everything in the same clipping mask. I just choose to do this in multiple clipping masks. Then I'm going to go into the brush menu, and I'm going to go to the Messy main set, and I'm going to select dual color spray overlay. And what I'm going to do is, because this is a dual color brush, I want one color to be that color that I selected. I want the second color to be lighter. So I'm going to go in and change it to something a bit lighter. And then I'm going to start to use this brush. So do you see what the brush is adding? Some visual effects. Like a very gentle spray. And what I'm seeing more of is that lighter color of the spray. I actually want it to be the opposite. So the color that you see here is always going to be your main color. If you want the other color, just tap here and then go in and tap on the second color. And now when I use this brush, I'm seeing more of that color. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some spray here and there, just to add a touch of visual interest. So I am happy with that. I could definitely add some more color if I wanted to, but I'm going to keep this simple. Now we're ready to move on to the seeds. Tap on the layers panel, and what I'm going to do is I am going to go up here just above that clipping mask of the rind and create another layer, and I'm going to create the seeds here. So for the seeds, I'm going to go in and select this color right here. I'm going to go to the brush library. I'm in the Messy set. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. This is the main set. And wet ink detail. This is a pretty saturated brush, very pigmented. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make the seeds. And the size that I'm at is 45. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the seeds. And I'm going to go in with a more sketchy look, kind of like this. So rather than filling in the seeds like this, I'm going to fill it in so that there are some gaps. This is just a personal choice. It's really up to you how you paint these seeds. So just going to vary the pressure a bit so I create an interesting look. Just gonna go and finish all of the seeds. Okay, and now I want to add a little bit of a highlight to the seeds because I want them to look like they're shining. So I'm going to go into the color menu and double tap at the 10 o'clock position. We'll snap to white. That is the fastest way to get to pure white. And what I'm going to do is just create a little bit of a highlight on each seed. You don't have to do this. This is just me trying to make these seeds look like they're a little glossy and wet from the watermelon. So those are the seeds. Actually, wait, I didn't do enough on this one. Okay, so those are the seeds done. Now we are ready for the final part, which is the paint splatters in the back. I feel like those really make the painting. And we're going to do this in a different layer because we need to be able to move this if we want to. So plus, now we're in a different layer. You can definitely name the layers if you want, but I'll tell you, I really don't name my layers. I can see what's in the layer just by looking at this little thumbnail here. So I want the paint splatter to be everywhere. So that is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is some paint splatters here and here, but I want them to be everywhere. So I'm going to go in and select Paint Splatter C. This brush is great for lots of paint splatters. And I have selected my color, which is this one right here. Now I'm going to start out with this preset size, which is 45. I'm going to show you how this brush works. If you apply low pressure, you get splatters that look like that. But if you apply high pressure, like really tap hard, not breaking your iPad screen, of course, then you will get bigger splatters. So you can play around with this and get really interesting splatters. What I'm planning to do for today, I want to tap in the middle and maybe tap a little harder and create lots of big splatters. So do you see when I tapped very lightly, I got small splatters. Now I have really big splatters. And I am pretty happy with that. But I don't want the paint splatters on the watermelon slice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase everything. Now you might be thinking, well, what if I took these splatters, the layer with the splatters, and put it underneath the watermelon? Would that work? Let me show you. That's actually not going to work in this case. So let's just grab that. And sometimes it's so hard to grab things. And move it. And I'm going to move it here. And what you'll see is you can still see all of those splatters. So we have done a watercolor painting, so it is transparent. So you are going to see through that watermelon slice, and that's why you're seeing the splatters. Now, if this is a look that you like, that is great. I feel it's a bit too intense for me personally. Again, this is all about your personal choice. So I'm going to remove some of these splatters here because I don't want them. So I'm going to go to the erase tool, and there's a huge eraser and an edge eraser. The huge eraser is really big, so I don't suggest using it for this purpose. I'm going to use the edge eraser. I'm at size 70, and I'm going to start to remove some of the splatters that I don't want to see. So I don't want too many splatters on top of this. Okay, so I think that looks good. I could definitely change things up if I wanted to, but as a starting point, I think this is great. Thank you very much for watching, and if you are interested in the Messy Watercolor set, you can find the link in the pinned comment and in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Bye!